Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to this presentation about earned value management. When we talk about earned value management, then we talk about a method for project control. As you recall, when we talked about the important processes in project management, we talked about initiation phase or initiation process, where we identify objectives and we identify the success criteria of the project. We identify the outcome and the output. This is where we start when we build the foundation for the project. And then we have this planning phase. We develop several plans, risk plans, communication plans, cost and time plans, and similar things. And then we start execution. Execution means that we start producing the deliverables. In order to make sure that we are producing the deliverables according to the specified objectives, according to the specified plan, a specified time frame, and so on, we need something, we need a technique or a tool in order to help us to follow and monitor the project. One of these tools is called the earned value method, and it is being used. This earned value method is used by many project applications for the purpose of following up the project, and it is widely used in many applications. So the purpose of this lecture is to give you a brief insight about the principles of earned value management. Now let's just have a quick look about our way of thinking here. We start usually by a plan. This is our project plan. And then when we start the execution, what we do is to measure progress. We need some way or some tools or some method so that we can measure the scope, the progress of scope, the progress of time, the progress of cost, or any other variable that of interest. And then this third step is to compare the actual data with the plan data. We measure, this is our actual, we compare it with the plan, and then based on the deviation between the actual results and the planned or intended results, which is the planned value, we taking the intended actions, and we recycle this process again. This is the core of this project control principle. Now let's look at why we need this earned value method in order to carry out this control principle that I showed previously. This is an example. You have a project which is about the development of a website, okay? And you assume that the total cost of this project is 500,000 Norwegian kroner. These are your total costs. And we assume further that in the middle of this project, like halfway through, you checked the accumulated expenses. You found out that the accumulated expenses, actual cost, were 230,000. And in your original plan, you were supposed to use 250,000. You might assume that, well, I saved 20,000 kroner. We are halfway the project and we have actually saved 20,000 kroner. Well, you might have saved 20,000 kroner, but you might not have completed the intended amount of work that you were looking at. Here you are just looking at the costs, but you don't know what these 230,000 kroner actually have been used to produce. It might be just wasting money. So from looking at the cost structure or the cost situation, comparing planned cost with actual cost, you do not get a good uh, a good understanding of project situation. Well, we can try to change that and say, okay, rather than looking at the costs, let us look at the actual work produced. This is another example. Now, assume that your objective is to excavate 100 cubic meter of earth. This is a task you have in your project. It's excavation task. And in the middle of the project, you look at the planned value, how much you were supposed to excavate. You saw that according to your timeline, you were supposed to excavate 50 cubic meter. And you looked how much you have excavated, you find that you have excavated 40 cubic meter. Well, you would say that, well, I have a lag by 10 cubic meter. That's true, but this number doesn't really tell the entire story, because here it tells you that you are lagging behind time-wise. But it didn't tell you anything about how much resources you have actually used in order to produce these 40 cubic meters. It might be the case that to produce these 40 cubic meter, you have used only half of your resources and you save the other. So these numbers tells you something about the amount of work, but they don't tell you anything about the amount of resources that you have used in this situation. So looking at costs alone and looking at the scope alone or time alone does not give us a good picture of project situation. We need a tool, and here comes the earned value. We need a tool that links together this time with cost, with scope, and express it in a convenient way so that it can help us to track the status of the project. And this is the earned value. There are three important terms when we talk about earned value management. Then we need to understand three important terms. The first term is called the PV, and it is short for planned value. This value represents the cumulative time-phased budget. Like any project, you have a budget. We call it a time-phased. It is a budget distributed across a timeline. It shows how many hours or how many crooners you are going to use in each phase, in each month, in each week, in each day. That's why we call it a time-phased budget. So the planned value, it shows how much time, or sorry, how much hours or how many crooners you have used or you are planning to use on each phase of your project. And then there is another term which is called the actual cost. This is a variable. This is represent the incurred, the actual cost incurred in hours or in kroner, given at any point of time. And then we have the third term, which is called the earned value. This value represents the value of the work completed. Like if I completed 40 cubic meter of earth, how much 40 cubic meter of earth is worth if we talk about kroner or hours? So I convert the physical progress here, the earned value concept is about converting the physical progress you are doing into hours or kroner. And therefore, when you are converting the physical work that is done into hours and kroners, hours or kroner, you will be able to compare this earned value with the actual cost or with the planned value and see the difference between the earned value, which is you have actually produced, and the actual cost, which is the amount of money that you have actually used, and the planned value, what was your original estimate at the beginning. And looking into the difference or the relationship between these three variables provide us with some insightful information about the status of the project. And we use, in order to compare these three variables together, we use some performance measures, some parameters. Two important parameters here. The first one is the Schedule Performance Index. Schedule Performance Index, or the SPI, is simply the earned value divided by the planned value. Now, you have a project, the planned value at the point of control. Let's just simple example. Planned value was 1,000 kroner. You were supposed to produce equivalent of 1,000 kroner, and you checked the earned value. What is the value of the work you have produced? You find that the value of the work you have produced is only 800 kroner. So it's an evaluation, it's an estimation, subjective estimation. But this is what we have right now. Then your SPE or SPI is simply 80%. This is an indication that you are lagging behind. You are lacking 20% of work in order to be on schedule. So this is our first indicator, the Schedule Performance Index, or sometimes we call it Time Performance Index. The second indicator we have is the so-called Cost Performance Index. Cost Performance Index doesn't look at time, it looks at money. Again, the same simple project, if we look at how much money have we actually used, let's say we found out that we actually used only 500 kroner on this particular project, and the earned value was 80. Then 80 divide or 800 divided by 500, it's like how much? It's like 135%. Then cost wise, although this project is lagging behind time, but from a cost point of view, we are saving money. It means that our resources, the people who are working on this project, are actually saving money. And indeed, we need more time, but on the budget wise, we are very good. So using these two terms, the schedule performance index and the cost performance index, using the earned value and planned value and the actual cost as a reference, it helps us to understand better the status of the project. And then we can use these SPIs and CPIs to make a forecast. Now, when we are making a forecast, we assume that this SPI and CPI will not change over time, that this is our situation right now. This is the productivity of our resources. This is how much we are lagging behind. Then we can estimate what will be the total cost at completion, the EAC here. It is a simple equation. The estimated cost at completion is simply your original planned value divided by the CPI. And the estimated duration at completion is simply your original duration divided by SPI. This is a linear model, of course, but it gives us an indication of what really can happen if we continue to do with the same performance measures as we are doing in our project. So earned value, as you can see, is a very simple model. It is based on the idea that you can convert your amount of work into hours or kroners, and then you compare thereafter this amount you produce with the actual cost or the planned value, and use that in order to make some estimation of what will be the total cost and what will be the total duration. This is an example of phase time budget. And in this example, as you can see, it's very simple example. You have a project consists of the activities A, B, C, D, and E. And the total costs of A, as you can see here, is 10,000 kroner. Total cost of B is 20,000 kroner. Total cost of C is 40,000 kroner. For D, 60,000, and for E is 20,000. But here there is a twist. When we are working on A, which has a duration of 2 months, in the first month we are supposed to use 4,000 kroner. And in the second month we are supposed to use 6,000 kroner. For B, also has a duration of 2 months, but in the third month we use 8,000, and in the fourth month we use 1,200. For C, similar distribution. First month 5,000, and then we go to 10, and then we go to 10, and we go to 15,000. And for D you have 6,000, 8, and so on. For E it has only a duration of 1 month, and we use all this amount at the last month. In many situations the distribution of cost is even, which means that the amount of hours or amount of money you use in each month is similar to the previous month or the previous week. But here we just put different data to show that in some situation the amount of money you use or amount of hour you use in each period or in each month or in each week could be different. And that's why we need some phase timed budget to show how to show these differences. And then here we have a matrix or a place we call it planned cost per month, which simply we add the planned cost for the first month, the planned cost for the second month, and for the third and fourth, and so on. Now, these are the planned costs for each month. In the first month, you have 4,000. In the second month, you have 6,000. Third month, 19,000, and so on. And the last month is 20,000. This is again a phase time budget for the entire project. Now, in order to use the earned value method, we need to accumulate these costs. Accumulate to see that what will be the accumulated total cost per month, not in each month. Per month, what will be the accumulated total cost? For instance, after 1 month, the total accumulated cost is 4,000. But after 2 months, it will be 10 because we have 4,000 from the first month and 6,000 from the second month. After 3, then we add the cost of the third month. After 4, then we add the cost of the fourth month, and so on. So we get these numbers. These are the numbers we use in order to draw the S-curve. The S-curve is the accumulated costs per month. This is our planned value. This is actually our plan. In this project, we will start first month by 4,000, and then when we end this project, the total cost will be 150,000 kroner. This is the planned value for our project. Now, this is our planned value, but in order to apply this earned value method in the right way, we need information. We need information about actual costs and the earned value. Here I just put some numbers to you so that you can see how this method is applied. So actually here we have actual costs. These are the expenses incurred accumulated in the first month. The incurred cost is 4,000 kroner, and in the second month 10,000 kroner. Third month, the total amount here, I'm talking about the accumulated, by the way, is 40,000 kroner, and in the third, after 4 months, the total costs are 80,000, and after 5 months is 95,000. In the same way, I have calculated or I have estimated the earned value figure, how much, what is the value of the work that has been produced. And as you can see, after 1 month, it's 4,000. And after 2 months, the accumulated value is 8,000, and then 30,000, and then 50,000, and then 60,000. Now, when you have these figures, the planned value and actual value and the earned value, then you are able to calculate the CPI and SPI. As you can see here, your CPI is going down. You start with 100%, and then it goes down to 80%, and it goes to 75% and 63 and 63. So your performance, your cost performance index is declining. You are not, your resources are producing less than expected, and this amount become less and less and less. So you have here a productivity problem. People are not working as they need, just looking at this data. And if you look at your SPI, this is the cost, this is the schedule performance index. After 1 month, you are on schedule, but then you drop down, and then you went up again, but then you go down, and then you go down. It's again, it seems that your schedule performance index is actually lagging behind. So looking at this project in total, we see that cost-wise, you are doing bad. Time-wise, you started good somehow, but you couldn't keep up the track. Now, what we can do, we can take the value of this planned value and actual value and estimated value or earned value and draw a diagram. This is our diagram that shows the accumulated planned value, this the green one, and the yellow one is the earned value, and the blue one is the actual cost. And as you can see, the gap between the planned value and the earned value is getting larger, and the difference and the gap between the actual cost, the blue line, and the yellow line is also increasing. Looking at this data, we would say that, well, this project actually is going to be delayed and is going to run over budget. This kind of information is the information actually we are seeking when we are using the earned value method. We can also look at how the trend has changed. Like the green line is the CPI, as you can see, is going down. You start from 100 and is going down. It is a clear evidence that there is something wrong with this project. And the blue line, as you can see, is start well, went bad, and went up and went down again. So you need, as a project manager, when you look at this data, you need to look, what shall I do now? What are the measures that I should implement in order to rectify the situation? Obviously, your people are not producing as they were supposed to do, and you are behind schedule. So probably you need more resources, probably you need more competent resources, experienced people, so that they can cover this lag.